This will be episode 26 of the End Product Podcast. We missed an episode last week, Tony's red card, and I was feeling a bit ill, and all sorts of pandemonium happened. Sissy boy, but we're back eventually. This is Friday the 4th of November, so we're actually in the weekend game week. End Product is happening as we speak, hopefully.
But
Sissy boy, you've been on your travels as well, just back from Lisbon. How you been, mate?
Yeah, it's I've had a mad couple of weeks actually. It was had my 40th birthday the previous weekend as well, so we all missed that. So yeah, it's been pretty busy. Lisbon was really nice. I'd never been there before, so I got up to the Benfica stadium and then popped my head into the sporting, sort of the outside of the sporting stadium on the way to the airport because it's right near the airport. So picked up a couple of souvenirs for the kids at the sporting stadium and yeah, I did the stadium tour and the museum tour in Benfica, and that was great. It's amazing how cheap everything is over there compared to like our neck of the woods. Cost me like
Portugal, yeah.
Yeah, €15 to do the stadium and museum tour. Thought that was pretty decent, to be fair.
That's decent, eh?
Yeah,
for sure.
That was good. How about yourself?
Looks like some tour out as well.
Yeah, it was good. I've never seen so many trophies. Like, if you're ever in Lisbon and you've got some time to kill, go check out the Benfica museum tour. I'm going to post a video on it, probably on Instagram a bit later, so you can see. But I had to cut down like the footage that I got of all of the trophies in there. It's insane. I've never seen so many trophies in my life.
Yeah,
because obviously they got multiple sports going on there as well. It's not just football, but they've got all of the teams, all the different sports, loads of really good memorabilia. But not just that, they also had like a kind of timeline of world history and what was going on. You go kind of up to the second floor and the stairs are like a spiral staircase, and as you go up it, it's kind of like the history of the world next to things that happened in the football club that time, which I thought was really nice actually. It was like amazing.
That's quite cool.
Yeah, it was really, really well, like it's a really nice museum. I'd go as far as to say it's the best museum I've seen in a football ground. I've done a tour. I haven't done loads of tours, but I've done obviously done Man United. I've done recently did West Ham. I've done Real Madrid. So now Benfica, and I'd say that Benfica's trophy cabinet had more trophies in it than the Real Madrid tour did. So yeah, pretty insane.
That's pretty something.
Insane. Yeah, it's nuts. Well worth a trip, definitely. Good to be back though. Good to be back talking about end product.
Get back on it.
I didn't have much end product to talk about from the midweek. I don't know about you, but it was a really weird midweek for me. A lot of orange and yellow scores, a few DMPs that were kind of risky in the first place. But any end product from you in the midweek?
Real Madrid 5, Celtic 1. No, it absolutely crippled me, man. I had maybe one combination of a team, like 5 guys that scored well. I could have maybe put together, but I didn't. I was nowhere near, man. But I'm quite hyped up for the weekend because now the group stages are all done. There's only a couple of games left before the international break, and I think surely there'll be a little bit less chaotic rotation.
Yeah,
over the last couple of games, because the domestic managers don't really give a crap about the World Cup, and it's not as if that many players actually go to the bloody thing anyway. So I think the next 2-3 weeks, match days, game weeks, whatever, hopefully we can get full throttle domestic football on the go. So I'm quite excited for the weekend, starting all that off, basically.
I was quite, on the subject of the World Cup and Celtics particularly, I was quite surprised to see Japan leaving your boys out. Was that a surprise to you and many of the Celtic fans, do you think?
I feel every Celtic fan in the world felt like proper butthurt about it. I'm not surprised. Rio Hatate doesn't get a sniff in that team. I don't think he's got more than 2 caps or something like that. And every time he is in a squad, he was even called off the bench and stuff last time. So I'm not, and obviously we're a lot more familiar with some of the midfield in Japan, like Tanaka, as well as Kamada, and a lot of the kind of bigger European based names that maybe Celtic fans would not know of and turn their nose up at. But I'm a bit surprised about Kyogo because he seems to feature more than Maeda has in the past. But so the Kyogo one definitely surprised me. Maeda wasn't a big surprise to be included, But yeah, so overall, like, yeah, Kyogo's the surprise for me more than anything.
Yeah, that was the one that I couldn't get my head around, to be honest. But I did see, I was just having a little look, sorting my teams out this morning for the game week ahead, and went into the section on Sorare data about injuries. Just sort of, I don't often go in there, but it is actually a really good section on the website if you have a look at your gallery and see what injuries you've got. So obviously you've got the kind of like injuries you can see if you hover over, and a couple of like orange, couple of reds. And obviously I had one over Tanaka this week, and I thought, oh, wasn't completely aware of an injury to Tanaka. Now I had a look at it, and it sounds quite serious. Sounds like he probably will miss the World Cup based on what I can read,
Oh,
what I
really?
found online about him. Yeah, if the information's correct, he's done some damage to his knee, which knees are never a quick recovery time. So I'll be surprised if he
No.
goes. And obviously, I've got that Nakayama at Huddersfield, who done his, I think it was his ACL. So he's out of the World Cup now as well. So you may well find that some of the Celtic lads do get a late call up if they have any more injuries. I think obviously they've got the big, large kind of what's the word, like the pre kind of squad
Squad pool.
announcement.
Yeah, yeah.
At the rate that these players are dropping, you may well find that people who aren't even in those larger squads getting called up now. It's mad. I think we were kind of expecting this, weren't they? A lot of the experts were saying when the World Cup was going to be in December, watch how many players get injured, watch how many players are missing, and we're starting to see that. The closer we get to the World Cup now, a lot of players who've had particularly in the UK and most parts of Europe, the busiest October most of these clubs have ever seen because they've been cramming
Yeah.
fixtures in, and players are paying the price for that. Unfortunately, I think I noticed a few on mine already missed that are likely to miss the World Cup now. Obviously, in Korea as well, Son looks like he might possibly miss out as well from an injury that he got
Yeah.
in midweek for Tottenham. So a lot of big players, looking like they might miss the World Cup, and hopefully not too many more. But wouldn't be surprised if some of those Japanese lads at Celtic get a last minute call up at the rate things are looking.
Yeah, anything could happen. I suppose when injuries and all that come into play. I'd say I just wasn't too surprised about it, and I didn't really bank on any of my Japanese lads being like World Cup utility pieces. And it feels like what we're going to get revealed on the 10th of November, next Thursday. We're going to get the unveiling Stish of the Global Cup and this custom scarcity, the new common, as it were, that we're
Mm.
going to get access to. Me and Harry did the game week stream last night, just building lineups and stuff like that. And we were having some early theory chat with some of the live chat in the night of how it all might work out or whatever. Have you given it much thought? Have you got any wee hypothesis or theories about what we're going to get?
I think now that when I went in to do my training teams this morning and saw that purple scarcity popped up, when you go like to put your training teams in, it shows up on there as like, you can filter by scarcity and it's like custom. So I'm expecting like a new set of common cards that'll be specifically for maybe one tournament, which will just be like the World Cup games only. So maybe we won't be able to mix our sort of rares and our limiteds into that. Like how they've got the kind of the way that like the academy works, where you can put a couple of limiteds in and get like a 20% bonus on it or something like that. I'm not expecting that. I'm expecting a single scarcity side game where maybe we all get like, or maybe it's a draft. Like how the old commons used to work, where you get to choose a few. I reckon we
Yeah,
might get something like that, or maybe you get, like how the NBA was like, pick your MVP, and then you get dropped the rest of the team. Maybe we'll get something like that where it's like pick like your World Cup squad. So it might be like pick 3 goalkeepers, pick your defenders, pick your midfielders and forwards, and maybe there's a score cap, so that it might mean. The reason I'm thinking this is they're going to launch it on the 10th, which gives us about, what is it, a week ahead of the World Cup? When's the World Cup kickoff? Is it like the 20th or something like that? So
yeah,
21st, is it? So just
something like
under
that.
2 weeks to like do some scouting, pick your team maybe. So what I'm hoping for is some kind of like draft type scenario where you get to pick like an MVP in each position, and then have to fill the rest of the team out with some kind of score cap or price cap, a bit like a traditional kind of like FPL dream team type situation. And then you take that squad through the World Cup stages, and maybe you can win cards a bit like we do in the regular sort of casual league. I think if it was me designing a game that was specifically for the World Cup and that kind of sat alone, um, that's the route I would go. I think it's been interesting to see it play out in the NBA, as like, I've been sort of dabbling in that, and it is making it really difficult. You know, like now that players are in their kind of regular season, they've had maybe 4 or 5 games. You can start to see like what those average scores are. Scoring cap comes into play. It's quite interesting. It makes for like a little bit more of a skill based sort of team selection than we see in football. So maybe seeing a little bit of that creep in, and you know the fact that the team that have probably built this game have probably been working on the gameplay of the NBA. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a few of those elements creep in, maybe a score cap or a price cap or some kind of like tiers where you have to select like one from tier 0 and then a mix of 3 or 4 from the other positions in the lower tiers. But it might not be that. It might just be luck of the draw, like the old days where like you pick one and then the rest of them are just there and you got to figure out what to do with them. But yeah, I'm excited to see what it is, and whether or not I'd be interested to see what the prizes are as well. I think that's the big if. What do you reckon? Do you think there's going to be tradable prizes, or are we just going to be expecting like purple common prizes?
Well, I had a wild theory on the stream, and I'm not really moving away from it. I'm going to double down on it, I guess, if that makes sense. And so the kind of train of thought I had, Stish, right? And I want to hear your thoughts as I can explain what I was thinking, right? Why do they need to make it a new scarcity? Why do they need to make it a different type of common? What's wrong with the commons we already have, right? So the existing common must not have, or must be a bit too, I don't know, maybe the
Not
water's
many
soiled
people
on
are
it
happy.
already.
Yeah,
Maybe you've already got a Ronaldo common, for example. So maybe they don't want that kind of thing crossing over your Neuers and Bayern and whatever. Maybe that's part of it, right? But what I started thinking is they're going to want this thing to be, like Nicholas said on that Bankless podcast. I don't know if anyone who's listening to this yourself caught that last week or so, but they were talking on that the World Cup is going to be day one of marketing for them. So whatever they're holding out, they're going to want anyone who watches that advert to have the ability to enter an email address, a password, get access to the game, and start to figure it out and play about with it. That's what I think
mm.
this is kind of dressed around becoming. So as I'm going down that kind of train of thought, where I end up basically is I think we're going to get it's going to roll out, and we're going to have like match days, like match day 1, match day 2, whatever. And kind of like you're saying there, we're going to get some sort of draft system, maybe where you're going to get like 10, 15 guys to start off with. Every game week, you win more. And I think at the end of the tournament, you can redeem a bunch of them for stuff. So say like, I don't know, you've got 5 Belgian, World Cup commons. You can burn 5 of them and you'll get a tier 2 Belgian rare or something. I don't know. But if you
That'd be
had
great.
10, you would get a tier 1, or, maybe the prizes will be different to that. But I think ultimately the punchline and why this becomes a wacky theory is I think this item will be burnable. I think it'll be I think it'll be tradable. I think it'll be like perishable is the word I'm actually looking for. Where you
Like
can
that.
burn it and get something else, redeem it.
I think that would have my attention if it was like that. Like, I think I'll play it anyway, just as a Sorare user. Like, we're gonna have a go at it, aren't we? Like, let's be honest. Whether or not we're that excited about it as someone who uses it, but I think one thing that you can take from, I don't know about you, but I know quite a lot of people who didn't touch Sorare until the NBA came on. Like a lot of my friends who are American are in the
Sure.
NBA side of it now, and they're really buzzing about it. Like, so the thought of people who maybe aren't that blockchain necessary coming into the football that maybe play FPL and are looking for like a dream team type experience in the World Cup, I think Sorare could offer a good one. Dependent on, I'm assuming this would mean that they have every player from every squad on board, because it makes no sense to have like a
Good point.
global World Cup game and you can only select players from 4 or 5 of the teams. So I'm assuming that means they've got some kind of license to at least like print the images of the players from every team, but then the license to then trade those and profit from them or sell them, I don't think like that's different altogether. Surely they've got deals
Yeah.
with a few nationalities which we know of. So maybe like in the World Cup and the Euros, they had like a Euro sort of. It was like a weekly special, wasn't it? And you could enter team players if you owned players that were playing in those games, and you won cards of the affiliations that they had. So the French national team, the Belgian, and the German. You could win cards of those, and we know they've got probably those still in place, and they've got one with Argentina. So the only potential I see for like card wins would be from the nationalities that we know they have existing deals with in terms of tradable cards. I don't know, maybe not, but I hope that they have got license to at least make a free play game with every team. If they make a really good, playable, fun World Cup product, I think they'll get the onboarding that they're hoping for. Um, and they will be able to shout about it. But I think if they shout about it and then people land on the page and they can only select from like Argentina, Brazil, Germany, France, then it won't feel like the game is really like something they can shout about. Do you know what I mean? That's my thoughts
Yeah.
on it anyway. It needs to be a proper World Cup game situation. And I think that's why the cards are purple. I don't think that they'll have license to let those cards be usable in the game outside of the constraints of the World Cup, because I'm going to assume that they got their licenses from FIFA and not from individual countries, which might be where the water gets a bit muddy. But this is
Yeah.
all speculation. We'll find out more next week, I'm sure.
I don't know. There was a wee thing going around with one of the early World Global Cup teaser things, and there was like, I don't know if you remember, but somebody had freeze framed the image, and it was like 12 different colours of card. I don't
Yeah,
know if you remember that.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that makes me think that maybe there's only 12, and I didn't really think about that detail until you brought it up. So I'm now quite conflicted because, yeah, my
It
kind of
won't feel
idea
right
doesn't really
because
work as well if you've not got access to every player or
yeah,
any team, you know.
yeah, it'd be a bit of a weird one, especially for like new players, because I think I think
It
that
would
was
just feel
something like
disjointed, wouldn't it?
yeah, in the early days, I think that was something that put a lot of people off that I showed Sorare to. Were like, oh, like, or my friends would text me and be like, oh, this kid at Southampton's really like keep your eye on him, Sorare, and I'm like, Southampton ain't on it. Like, people didn't understand that like you can't play with every player. You have to wait for the licenses, and I think that will put a lot of potential users off, like new users anyway. I think we'll all probably give it a go, but the new users is who they're trying to attract, I think, with this game. Especially if they're saying like what Nicholas did on Bankless, like this is marketing like day zero. That needs to be a product that
Yep,
they can really push. And I think they need everyone.
exactly.
They need every player on it. Otherwise it's a non starter for me. And I'm
Yeah,
like, I'm not the voice of doom when it comes to Sorare. I'm very optimistic about the platform and everything. But I do think that if this is not the World Cup product that people who don't follow Sorare will want it to be, it's not going to be the one to shout about. But I don't know. It just feels like a big leap. I'll be absolutely amazed, and I'll be really happy for Sorare and for all of us as well as holders of tokens and cards, and we're all like kind of invested our time into it as well. I think if the World Cup is like a good, fun fantasy game, because I think no one has any affiliation with a fantasy game for like tournaments. Do you know what I mean? When the Euros is on or the World Cup, I find I'll go on any website, find a game I can play, like free to enter, win 50 quid or whatever, enter it, and then never look at that website again. And if Sorare can be the place
yeah,
that everyone lands on, but then realise that it continues beyond the World Cup, then great. I think they'll keep a lot of people on board. But most other platforms, they just do their quick World Cup game, but there's no faces on it. It's just names. But I don't know. I'm just assuming you don't need any special kind of license to make a game like that. But if Sorare has the license to show their faces, it's just going to look like a really nice product, I think. And hopefully
yeah.
that's what they're delivering. Fingers crossed.
Do you know one thing I only kind of half realised recently is when FIFA came out again this year. See if you actually look at the FIFA cards now, the informs and all that, and all the special editions are way cool. But see if you look at every other one, it is like the chin up.
Yeah, yeah.
It is just,
What is that?
it is literally. Remember, we used to slag like all the MLS cards,
Yeah,
but that is literally a FIFA card. It's not an inform. It's like,
yeah.
you know, you don't even see the top of the shirt or nothing. It's literally chin.
Heads. Yeah.
Um, and I don't know. I only kind of really realised that like this year. And it's like, yeah. Anyway, it's by the by.
No, no.
But yeah, if they can look cool beyond the face, that'd be good as well.
Definitely, definitely. But I remember, like, as a kid as well, like with sticker collections and stuff, it was very rare that you get like there would always be like one. The first sticker album that would ever come out would not have the licenses, and it would just be like a player's head, and they'd have like a red T-shirt on or something. It was like I can't remember what they were, but I definitely had like sticker books where some teams just
Really,
had a white T-shirt on. Like,
really, that's cool. I've never even heard of
yeah.
that.
Oh, I can't remember what. There was always like, I think as I got older, then the World Cup ones normally like Panini would have like a proper license, but there was definitely some sort of World Cup sticker books where you'd have, or cards. I can't remember what they were, but there's definitely been cards printed where the players don't even have the kit on, or they've just got their
That's
head.
funny.
I don't know, like if that is just, if those kind of licenses are still a thing, then maybe So Rare just have to go with the Head and Shoulders. I don't know, floating heads, a little purple background.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
all that kind of brings us into what you were just kind of saying there in terms of your pal talking about wee wonder kids at Southampton or whatever. Sky News, since we've last seen each other, Stishy boy, Sky News kind of broke the leak that Consensus have tried to renegotiate their deal. So we were speaking before about the whole Liverpool thing, and I was saying all or nothing is
Yeah.
because they've auctioned this stuff out. Surely somebody's won it, whatever. Sounds like Consensus did win it, but for an eye-watering like amount of money, and they're trying to now renegotiate, and they're citing like the bear market and the bear run on NFTs in general, saying why they can't afford it now. And the Sky article basically says one Premier League executive just got the rest of them together and said, let's just go with Sorare, they're sorted.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's all but done.
That is, yeah. I mean, as and when that news is launched and announced, that will be huge. I would assume now that means it'll be next season. Like, unless, I mean, we've seen it before though, didn't we? Where I can't remember what division it was. It might have been a MLS, but I feel like we got mints of no. It was the FPA. It was a Scottish Premier League. When that was announced, it was near the
Aye.
end of the season, wasn't it? And we had like a couple of
That's
weeks
like 4
left.
games left or something.
Yeah. So we had like loads of cards that we had about 2 weeks of utility on, and then the new cards came out the following season. But obviously, they didn't come out until recently. But yeah, maybe they do that because then they'll get like 2 seasons worth out in the space of a few weeks. I don't know, but yeah, I think any Premier League launch on Sorare is positive news. So whether that does happen before the end of the season or not, I don't think it makes a difference. I think but I do think that
I
if it
think
is
we'll get
launched,
it rapid. I think
yeah, I
they'll
think
start selling cards throughout the World Cup.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, that would give people time to like think about what they're doing as well. That'd be amazing if that was the case. I'd be buzzing about the
Premier League
restart.
Limiteds for Christmas.
Yeah, yeah. I'd done that last year. I gave my brother and his birthday. To be fair, I send him a few limiteds on his birthday and Christmas. But I was talking to him the other week. And I was saying, "Oh, you got to get into the rares, man. Like limiteds, so hard to win anything in the limiteds unless you're playing. I love a bit of limited underdog and challenger. Challenger. I always call it challenger specialist. But yeah, I think he's got like himself sort of like maybe like one goalkeeper and about sort of he's probably got about 10 to 11 sort of outfield cards now. But he's still one of those players who more often than not it makes more sense for him to just enter the casual league and use a couple of limiteds than it does to put like the best limited team he's got out, because if they don't all have the best week of their lives, he's not getting nowhere near the cards. Whereas he's got some decent commons. He can chuck in with a couple of limiteds and try and scrape that 450 points or whatever it is to get a tier 3. And I think that's the most success he's had up to this point. So, but yeah, I think few limiteds a Christmas present. Who knows? He might get lucky. But yeah, a bit of Premier League action would be great. Who'd be your top 3 Who'd be the first free card you'd pick up playing if the Premier League came on?
When the Prem comes on, the first three players I definitely want to try and buy is, if money's no object, De Bruyne's the first guy I want.
Yeah.
If money's no object, but money very much is an object at this point. So I don't know. Tierney and McGinn are high up on my want list. I
Mm-hmm.
suppose so is Edward and Armstrong. I like, yeah, I guess they're the kind of sneaky ones that I wouldn't mind trying to get quite sharp, regardless of form and all that kind of stuff. You know, just get one in now because I know I'm going to want it at some point. I like Romeo Lavia at Southampton. I wouldn't mind picking up one of him. He's a wee wonder kid that I was at Man City. I was hoping would get a loan, and they ended up going to Southampton instead. So yeah, that somebody like that could be fun, I guess. What about you, Stish? Do you get anyone lined up already?
I was thinking
Here's
about this.
another one. Alexis McAllister is one I want.
Oh right, yeah, yeah. So you've gone full Scots, all the ex Celtic players. Like you're showing your true form there, Quinny.
Yeah,
I
pretty
think
much. Yeah.
I think for me, yeah, like if money wasn't an object, obviously you'd be looking at like the Haalands of this world, but I don't think he's coming down in price anytime soon. I mean, if with an announced like the Premier coming on as well, like the price that Haaland's at now, it won't come down because his scarcity's gone down. It will
No.
stay there because he'll get more people on board in, and everyone's going to want that Haaland. And if they've got deep pockets, they'll definitely be picking him up. Same with De Bruyne. I mean, he's on. You can get his Belgium cards, can't you? But they're not cheap either. But I
Mega
think
money,
for
man.
me, I'd be looking at. I'd definitely pick up some United cards, Man United cards, as like for like sentimental value. I love the idea of getting behind the team like you do, watching Celtic every week, is having that double bang for your buck. That like you get the buzz of seeing your team play well, but also maybe win you some rewards in the process. So I've got a few United players already, but I think I'd pick up some with the kits and stuff like that, just for
Yeah.
sentimental value. But I really like Mark Gay at Crystal Palace as a centre back, under 23, potential
Nice.
England future hero. I think he's an amazing defender, um, and I'd imagine Crystal Palace to have like a little bit of value in terms of like there won't be as much like furore around their players, but I'd imagine on any
Agreed.
given day, Palace perform well. He's normally amongst the top scorers, as is Anderson there and Zaha, and there's a potential little Palace stack there. Palace are like very close to where I live as well, so I follow them quite closely, as well as obviously United. So I have a little soft spot for Palace. I'd definitely pick a few of theirs up. I loved Conor Gallagher when he was at Palace. He was a great player. I don't think he's getting the game time at Chelsea, but if he moved on from Chelsea or if he like cemented himself in that starting lineup, I'd love to pick up a player like that up. He's a complete annoyance in the midfield, a lot of defensive actions, and he gets on the end of a goal or two. So I'll be looking at him, and then I'd probably be looking at people like James Ward-Prowse, great on set pieces,
Yeah.
and
Great shout.
probably fly just under the radar enough that like people who don't follow the Premier League super closely would maybe not know how useful he'll be. And also, there's always a potential with someone like Ward-Prowse at a club like Southampton. He's a great player, but I do feel like there is an off chance, unless he's got it in his contract, that if Southampton went down, he may still stay there and try and get back up. I think the Championship is a good enough, and a player like that in the Championship would absolutely rip it up. That's the beauty of the Premier
Agreed.
League coming on as well. Is like those sort of bottom 3 or 4 clubs should be in the top 5 or 6 next season in their Championship. And having that Championship midweek utility, I'd definitely be looking at players in those clubs that are likely to not leave if they went down, to become like the strong options for D2 next season. And I think that would be my trading strategy. I think
So you're going to get lots of
U23,
Man United cards in.
get the United ones in. I'd say I've got Anthony,
Wait
get a
for them to
few
get
United
relegated.
cards in. That'd be me. I think be good to see. And a Garnacho, definitely pick a Garnacho up, little rookie card. If it has
Yeah.
the rookie on it, definitely have a Garnacho rookie. He's been looking really good in the last few weeks, and obviously but I think the hype is coming for him. If he carries on the way he is, he's not going to be obtainable on Sorare when they launch. If he's got that little rookie on him as well,
Yeah,
but the Garnacho number one's going to be
a biggie.
a sizable
What do you think
auction.
Sancho goes for? Sancho rare.
I think in terms of his utility on Sorare, he's a difficult one, isn't he? Because he is like open to quite a bit of rotation. I do like him a lot. I think a Sancho rare would sit somewhere near, maybe like, I don't think he'd be like in that high echelon. You know, like some of the top players will be in that sort of, the top players will be like close to 10 ETH. The players just below that will be like 4 or 5. The young ones will be anyway. And I think Sancho would be in that kind of like 1 to 2, maybe like 1.2, 1.3 ETH.
So you think
While he's
Kane's
out
about
of
10
team.
ETH?
What's that?
You think Kane will be about 10 ETH?
Kane. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, he might be. He might. He's got to be up there, hasn't he? Maybe not 10
he'll be
because of
big.
his age. Maybe he'll be like a. He might be like a 5 or 6, maybe not a 10. I think 10 is hard. 10 is Haaland, Mbappe. What's Messi? Messi's about what, 4, 3 or 4
Yeah,
ETH. I'd put him close to that in terms of his utility, and his collectability is not quite there as a Messi. So I put him just below a Messi in terms of like, or a Neymar maybe. Maybe what's Neymar? He's got to be about 4 or 5, maybe a
Ronaldo at
couple.
Man United. How much for that?
Ronaldo in the United shirt is more of the collectible thing, I think, and
Yeah,
I'd put that at about two, 2 ETH for
yeah,
Ronaldo. The early mints I'd put number 7 and number 1. Number 7 Man United mint, number 1 Man United mint. You got to be getting on for 10 ETH for those, I think, from a collectible point of view, not from a
yeah.
utility perspective, but yeah, there's United fans out there with deep pockets that are in and amongst the blockchain. I'm sure will want those mints. I'd love a number 7 Ronaldo more than I'd love the number 1, I think, but I'm not paying 10 ETH for it. But I'd love a Ronaldo in a United kit. I think like most of these United pickups, I will probably not pick them up straight away. I think like we've seen with NBA, all those early mints go super expensive. Then the people realize it's more about the utility, and then they start to pick up over time. So I think that like I'll probably sit out of most of the auctions unless I see some real value. And like I said, maybe the value will be in those sort of Crystal Palace, Southampton youngsters, picking those guys up cheap. Whereas like trying to battle against like the big dogs for like the Ronaldo mints and that in the early days, I'm probably not going to get involved. I'll probably just hope to win. You know, like put in some strong teams on in the All Star and U23 and hope to land a couple of Premier League cards that way. But yeah, be buzzing for it. And fingers crossed it does come and it lands. If you say like during the World Cup, that would be incredible. I'm not as optimistic for that as you, but either which way, I'd love an announcement. Just the announcement alone would be exciting. I'm sure everyone would agree that.
Yeah, I'm very optimistic that we get it rapid. I am, to be honest with you. I think the Premier will just want, because they've also been waiting for this our company to get their finger out and do the season's NFT, or whatever
Mm.
that they've not done because they've got no money anymore or whatever. So I think they'll be itching to go. I think Sorare will be itching to go. They've probably been anticipating this kind of thing happening and been like a coiled spring waiting for the phone to
Yeah,
go.
yeah, I feel that.
Because this crypto world is quite a small place. I think Nick and all these people, they all kind of know each other, I think, don't they, through the ancient
Definitely.
Discord servers of 2014 and whatever. And,
They've probably been to every crypto conference around the world over the course of the last couple of years as well. And I think that like the general sentiment towards Sorare within the NFT community, from my experience, that is actually what I was doing in Lisbon. Actually, I was there to perform at like an NFT conference.
Yep.
And people within the NFT space, Sorare is a bit more of a talking point now than it has in recent times, because a lot of sort of like prevalent NFT kind of like influencers on Twitter have mentioned Sorare
Yep.
being above CryptoPunks and apes and stuff like that, and it's like it's made them look at it in a different light, and I think it's almost decoupled from NFTs, especially like the profile picture type stuff that the utility is questionable of most NFTs. You can't justify paying 20 grand for a picture of a monkey that gets you into a party once a year, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
some people would disagree. But I think that like what a lot of my friends who are in the NFT space who got in during NBA are absolutely buzzing about playing So Rare now. Like they had no interest in getting involved during football, saw no real kind of reason to get in, got in the NBA, absolutely buzzing for it, and all of them are like, "When are the ETH rewards coming?" And I'm like, I don't think ETH rewards will be added to the NBA or MLB games. I don't know about you if you've seen or heard anything, but my opinion is it's more likely that it gets phased out of football than it gets added to the other two.
Hmm.
Hopefully, it does
It's
get phased out. But
well, on that note, Stish, we've actually had some breaking news as we've been recording. They have announced that they're doing a market fee on Sorare NBA and Sorare MLB on the secondary market of 5%.
I think we knew that was coming because we've seen, like there is that kind of like section, isn't there? When you do a trade, it says like the fee is this. Currently, there are no fees or whatever. But now a market fee. I mean, I wonder why NBA and MLB. My gut feeling on why it's them two, and this is probably wrong, but is it just me or is like the potential knee jerk reaction of like the football community to these fees being added versus the NBA and MLB who are relatively new to the product and maybe not as likely to kick off online about it? What do you think?
That's probably quite a fair point, yeah. I think as well, like the football market is so much more vibrant that 5% clip is mental. Like, imagine they took a 5% clip off the football market.
Mm,
That would be a huge that would have huge ramifications. Whereas the market for maybe a lesser extent MLB, but certainly NBA is so much more immature at this point. Maybe it is a bit more expensive on the actual network
mm,
because so many people will be trading in and out of cards like all the time because of their L10 on
yeah,
every
true.
card for always. Whereas with football, maybe you don't quite have that problem in terms of volume because the volume is different in terms of what dictates football.
I think so this is inclusive of all taxes, including VAT if applicable. So I wonder what implications that will have differing from different countries and stuff like that as well. But one thing I will say, I think 5% is a little bit punchy. I
Yeah,
I think it could have been lower. I think a 2.5% would have been a bit more, would feel a bit more. When you look at that image of the $100 going across and it's like a $5 fee, I think that's quite punchy. And like you said, maybe the football is bringing them in the lion's share of their earnings. So the football, like the sales on the auction market are consistently high and quite a bit higher, I think, than MLB, and
yeah.
probably more likely to be higher for than NBA as long as there are ETH rewards. I think them phasing out ETH rewards on football would be potentially catastrophic for the card prices because that looks like yield to a lot of people. Do you know what I mean? Even though you're not likely to win ETH that often, that little, like the threshold particularly, if the threshold went, I think it would have a massive knock on effect on
I
like
think the
the
basketball crowd might put a bit more pressure on Sorare to extend cash places, because
mm,
I seen somebody, I forget exactly who it was, I'm terribly sorry for not crediting them with it, but they were saying something like, and they were a DFS basketball player coming into Sorare now, and they were saying like, we're
yeah,
adults, give us bloody money, like kind of thing. Um, so
and
maybe these
maybe
fees are maybe to
yeah,
maybe to facilitate that because that would, as much as it shouldn't be, the football business model has been so good for Sorare, they could probably float NBA and MLB off the back of it, but it wouldn't be good business sense to have other products potentially anchor off of something that is so buoyant. So
yeah.
maybe this is their way of giving them a different revenue source that can populate their prize pools. Maybe.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe that's right. That makes sense because if they do, let's say they take 5% of all of these secondary sales and put that into a giant pot, and then they scrape another like 10% out of that overall pot, and then that is split up between the tournaments that they run. Like, they could over time start to inflate those prizes. If those prizes are kind of like a reflection of like the week's earnings or something like that. So it's like you win a rake of all of the fees that we've earned this week, or then it becomes sustainable, doesn't it? Because then you can only win what they've earned. They can't start to lose money on the prizes they're giving away that way. And I suppose as well, another thing when you think about it is a lot of people see the rewards you win as a way to earn on those two platforms, because you're not earning the ETH rewards or the thresholds. A lot of cards you do win, you're looking to sell to like get some ROI. So I guess they're hoping that the secondary market on those games will be potentially more active than the football one, on a sort of player by
Yeah,
player basis. And obviously the supply is quite high on like the limiteds and the rares compared to the amount of players that are playing right now. So you'd like to hope that liquidity improves over time. But it'd be interesting to see like what kind of effects we'll have to get Laird or or someone from Sorare data to like keep an eye on what effect that has on the marketplace, and how if anything it affects the prices of cards and the amount of transactions. So yeah, that's an interesting development, and be something we have to keep a little eye on. I think figure out if it's working or not.
yeah, definitely one to watch out for. Because I say I do think if they rolled that across to football at 5%, it's daylight robbery. Like, because the amount of look at the daily volume of secondary market transactions, and a 5% clip on that is
That's
mega.
enormous.
Yeah. So it feels like if the percentage is high, it's probably because again, you know better than I do, Sish, I'm sure in a lot of these ways, but like, you know, if it's a higher percentage because it's probably going to actually catch less, whereas if they were putting it on the football multi-million pound machine, you're not putting 5% on that, you're probably putting 0.5% on that, and it
Yeah.
probably pulls in still 10 times the amount of money by comparison. So I think with it being that 5%, it's maybe some sort of tell towards that. It's maybe to make them a bit more buoyant for their own, like their podium or any cash payout or something.
And maybe the deals
That's
they've
as good
done
as
with
I've got.
like the NBA and the MLB might be different to like, the rake they take from football. For all we know, they might, let's say like an Mbappe card sells for 10 ETH or something on the auction. Let's say an Mbappe auction goes for 10. Let's assume that like 5 of that goes straight to PSG, leaving the other 5 to Sorare, or maybe Mbappe takes a bit. I don't know how it works, but maybe the MLB, they don't earn as much as 50%. Maybe they earn like 20% of that sale. So they need to like
Ah,
make up with,
sure.
I don't know. That again, that's just me thinking, because they've
Sure.
gone with,
Makes sense, but
yeah, interesting. But yeah, I think it's one of them things we'll just see how it develops. Be interesting to see what the after we're done today, I'll have a little look on Twitter and see what the kind of like NBA community is saying on the fee. I think it's the one thing I will think is a bit strange about it is they should have probably had this in place at launch, not now. It's a bit close to launch
perhaps, yeah.
to bring this in. They could have, if it wasn't ready, they could have waited a couple of weeks to launch and had this in place straight away.
Yeah.
But
Because the announcement says from Monday the 7th, or something like that. So they could
it's
have
very
even
similar.
told us from Monday the 7th 3 weeks ago. Like,
Yeah, yeah, they could
they
have.
could have,
They must have known they were building this, right? This can't have been something they'd just done sorted out, because we've had that on the trading sort of window for months now. So we knew it was coming at some stage. But I'm surprised at how it's landed, but I'm not surprised it's happened. I was expecting it. Well, hopefully we won't have to experience that on the football side anytime soon, and we can enjoy a bit of free trading. But I think Tony will be upset the amount of trading he does if they start
yeah,
introducing that football. Where he was, they'll have to invite him to the Christmas do, the amount of trading he does. He paid his
for
way.
sure.
He'll pay his way straight into that Christmas do on his percentages. Talking of Tony, actually, didn't he have a bit of end product while we missed? He finished up in the underdog, didn't he?
He
Didn't he
did.
have a finish just outside the podium on the underdog while we missed the last week?
Mikey Johnson got him up to like 4th or 5th or something
That was right, yeah.
on the Monday night.
He just missed out on the
Tony joined
start,
the
didn't he?
stream. Yeah, just missed out. So it was just because in that competition, underdog it was again. So that's underdog 2 weekends in a row, flying high. But the underdog podium is Star Rares, and outside of that is tier 1. So I think he finished
Yeah.
like 5th or 6th and ended up being a tier 1 rather than a star, which is a bummer. But so good to be fighting up there 2 weeks in a row for Big Tony. And he got his red card overturned as well. And he'll be
He's had
playing
a great
Celtic
week.
this weekend.
That's it. He's good to go. And we wish him luck. I know he's been a busy man of late, so we've been struggling to get him on the podcast. But I wish him luck. You probably don't want him. You probably want him to have a stinker on the weekend, but we'll be up there.
I don't want any goals for Dundee United this weekend. Sorry, man.
Yeah,
Clean sheets are too valuable to me now.
talking about the clean sheets are valuable, and I can be involved in that now because one of my end product stories of recent times was winning your man JJ, who
Of
managed
course. Yeah.
to miss a penalty.
Oh,
But
so he did as well.
I mean, it's my first. That's my first ownership of a Celtic defender. So I've got Giacomakis in rare. I've got JJ. I've got Kenny as well, but he's out on loan. But I picked him up because I read an article about him while he was playing in Ireland. There was an article
He's
I read
on loan
on.
in like Lauren in Scotland, isn't he?
That's right. Yeah, I mean it's a long time before he might get any utility for me, but I was kind of hoping he might. I didn't know how good he was or not. I read an article, like a scouting article, that profiled players who might likely replace like Adiemi, and his goal scoring attributes and stats put him as a similar kind of like playing style to Adiemi. And I thought,
Nice.
I gave him a search and saw that he was on Celtic's books now. Like he'd moved from, I think it was at Shamrock or something like that, one of the Irish sides. And I just thought I'd take a punt on him. So I've got his rare. But whether or not, he may never end up playing a game for Celtic. But he's in the YTS scheme at Club Tropicana Drinks FC right now.
Like,
As are quite a few of my cards, I've got those red crosses next to them. But hoping one day, every season that passes, like, am I going to get any use out of Shoji Toyama, the 17-year-old from Gamba who I bought about 3 seasons ago? He's been on loan in like J2 this season, and I don't think he scored a goal until recently. So I'm not
I've been
sure.
like that with Paul Obina, who I bought as a under 23 goalkeeper about fucking 5 years ago, it feels like, and he played like 2 Asian Champions League games and never been seen from since.
I had him as well. Same. I think I paid 0.4 or 0.5 for him. There was only about 3 of him on the platform at the time, so I was getting really good offers for him, and then he just fell off the radar, didn't he? And I think he's found himself in about 3rd choice there now, hasn't he, at Yokohama?
Yeah,
hopefully he gets a move.
totally
That's
vanished.
one thing that we will have to look forward to is the Japanese transfer market heating up probably through the World Cup. That'll
That's
be
always
interesting.
great, isn't it?
I've got a subscription to the Sorare Japan newsletter, and it's a good one as well. Like that's something we should probably like talk about on the podcast soon. Is there's a lot of sort of newsletters and paid people doing like the digging for you, and I think that I do get some good value out of Sorare Japan. So shout out Sorare Japan. I'm going to be keeping an eye on his newsletters during the World Cup, see if there's any activity in the transfer market that I can pounce on. But Japan always is crazy in the transfer window. So be interesting to see if any players become a bit more useful for me next season.
I am. I'm not looking for. I don't really have any J League exposure, so I'm not too worried about transfers or anything like that. Thankfully, because it can be. I suppose there's not even that much jeopardy anymore now that we've got Bundesliga 2 and that kind of stuff. I've got Tani. I'd like to see Tani move to Bundesliga 2. That would be great. Because he was actually linked to go there before, and I was so happy it never went through. Maybe now we want it to go through.
I think it'll be.
Otherwise,
there'll be a big point on like what happens to Gamba, because Gamba's still able to go down, right? They're able to go down
Yeah,
this
they're
week.
fighting relegation last game of the season this weekend.
That's right. So if they do go down, he'll almost certainly move, I think,
Yeah, I
because
think that's right.
he's not going to
There's
play
no
in
way he's
J2.
playing J2.
No way. And, you know, yeah, I'm just looking at the table now. So what is it, the last round of games, isn't it? And they are 1 point above relegation, or above the playoffs. They're 3 points. They could still go down automatic, actually. They've got a
They're playing
bad...
Antlers in the last game, I think. Antlers are fighting at the top end for something.
That's right, they are. Yeah, they can still find their way into the playoff position for the Asian Champions League, right? If they win and Samfresh lose, but Gamba down the other end could find themselves automatically relegated if S Pulse win and they lose. So,
Oof.
and if Kyoto Sanga also need to draw or win. So if they draw or win, S Pulse win, Gamba lose, they can find themselves down there. I feel like S Pulse have got a tough fixture this weekend as well, because I
They
have a
do.
couple of players.
Can't remember, but
I fancy S Pulse to stay up.
I'm
Yeah,
surprised how low down they were.
yeah, they're better than their position, definitely. They just had a really poor period in the middle of the season that cost them, but they haven't. Just looking now at their results, they haven't had that many great results of late. But the couple of times I watched them recently, I didn't think they were as bad as where they are in the league. There's a lot of teams above them. I thought Sagan Tosu have been awful this season, and Avispa have been poor every time I watch them. There's a lot of clubs way up. Like, I can't believe how high up Raysol are. They're seventh. They're one of the worst teams.
Racel, but see that. But the first 10 games before they sold their goalkeeper, that was my goalkeeper, the Korean
Mm,
guy, they were top after 10 games. They didn't concede a goal for ages. I think they maybe just rode on the fumes of that.
probably right. Yeah, yeah. Their recent form's not good, and Sagan Tosu's recent form's horrendous as well. Actually, so that might be why I maybe just watched them a bit too late in the season. Just missed how good they were at the beginning. But yeah, I mean, there was a time that Kobe, Vissel were looking like they were going down. They were just nailed to the bottom. They've managed to creep their way all the way up to 12th. So just shows you how competitive it is at the bottom of that division. But yeah, I think Gamba are going to be fighting for survival. They haven't been good this season whenever I've watched them. So, but if they do go down, yeah, you'd almost certainly imagine Tanny moves. I was looking at him as well. I think he's one of the best value ads on the platform right now, and I think it might be because I suppose it might not be because maybe not a lot of people realise that he's on loan at Shonan because he's been there for 2 or 3
Few
seasons
years.
on the trot now. But he is owned by Gamba, and maybe that is priced in at the moment that people think they might go down and take him with them. But he's no way he's playing in J2. Not for me or for anyone, I don't think. But yeah, I think he's a good value pickup at the moment for a U23 goalkeeper. Like we had this conversation before, didn't we? Recently,
I think so.
can't remember if we were on air or off air, but his price is quite interesting. It looks a good ad at the moment for me. But yeah, what you got going on for the game week anyway, Quinny? We've been chatting about the market and what's going on in Sorare, but what is getting you excited for the game week ahead?
Well, I think I've kind of nailed the matrix of getting all the combinations of Celtic cards out in a way where they don't completely screw me over. I'm hoping. So, yeah, I'm just quite optimistic about Celtic's chances this weekend. I think it's a good game for us against Dundee United because we scored 9 last time, Sorry, Tony. But on top of that as well, I think I've built my teams well enough that, if this guy scores, a team will go off. If that guy scores, a team will go off.
Mm.
And that kind of thing. I don't have, hopefully, too many things that cancel each other out. And I think that's been my problem. Because obviously last weekend, for anyone that didn't catch it, I never played Greg Taylor rare or super rare, and he dropped in a 90-pluser.
Oh,
So I feel like I maybe went a week or two of my combinations letting me down rather than my player quality. And I'm quite optimistic this week that I've got some. I think I've got the combinations laid out. So I'm hoping for 3 or 4 cards this week, really, to be honest, between Celtic and then non-Celtic lineups. What
fingers
about you?
crossed. I think I've got a few obviously, like I think like the heavy hitters in my gallery are my sort of Ajax and PSV cards, and they play each other. So, I'm never that optimistic about the game week when like my big hitters are playing against each other.
Yep.
What I've started doing on weeks like this is I will wait most of the sort of PSV players in one team, and then the Ajax ones in another team, so that they don't cancel each other out in their lineup. Sometimes, like, I might take that risk if they're defensive players, like, like you just hope that it's a 0-0, or or it's a scrappy game and the midfielders on both sides have like lots of touches and lots of tackles and interceptions and stuff. But I expect goals in this game from both sides.
Nice.
So I didn't use Obispo this week in any of my teams. He's in training because I just don't fancy PSV to keep a clean sheet,
Sure.
and I don't fancy Ajax to either. So I didn't risk Wrench either. Wrench has been sort of rotated a little bit. He's just come back from injury, but I do expect him to start. But I just don't expect Ajax to keep a clean sheet. I think I'm hoping it'll be an end-to-end game. I put Veerman into a Challenger Euro D2 rather than one of the pros this week. So I've opted for a slightly different lean. My U23 pro team, which I think is usually my strongest entry, and it is this weekend. And I've opted to avoid all of the kind of regular heavy hitters, if you like. So this week, my U23 pro team is Bayazit in goal, Pavlovic of Rebel Salzburg at the back and captain,
Nice.
Al Hassan Yusuf super rare, Gabriel Florentin super rare, and Sesko up front because I fancy Sesko to start and he's due a goal. So I'm hoping that team can go off. I think that it is a good fixture for Salzburg. The only thing is it's away, but they're playing Wolfsburg.
Pellets.
Yeah, pellets. I fancy some goals there. Hopefully, Sesko can get amongst them. And then, do you know what I started in the midweek? I invested in another super rare in a second division Europe Pro because it's like there's not as many people entering it, and because this week I think Bayazit and Safanov U23 goalkeepers actually have a better matchup than Muric.
Okay.
I've put Muric in my second division Europe Pro team this week, and I've gone with a pretty decent lineup for that. I think so. I picked up Dimitris Pelkas, who plays his football at Hull in the Championship, because I thought I saw a window of opportunity for the midweek, because the previous midweek that second division Europe Pro was such a low scoring division to win a card. I think you only needed like 200 points to win a card in it, like last midweek, and I had a good side that I could put out minus a midfielder. So I started looking at midfielders. Then I saw a super rare midfielder. This guy is playing for Hull. He's capable of a decisive. Fancied him to start. Unfortunately, he didn't start. And I ended up having a pretty awful midweek. But I fancied putting him in again this weekend because I had enough U23 goalkeepers. I didn't need to use Muric in there. And I
Fair
decided to
enough.
put out second division Europe Pro. I picked up a guy called Francesco Di Tacchio a few months back, a super rare of him. I paid 0.3. He plays in Serie B in Italy. And the reason I picked him up was because I thought I could use him through the World Cup because they're still playing. But obviously now looks like that's going to change. So I just want to try and get a little bit of value out of the purchases I've made. So I've decided to start looking at second division Europe. So I've got a strong team there, I think, if they all start.
Nice.
So hopefully a bit of end product there. Other than that, I decided to go into my super rares into Challenger Europe. That's got a pretty strong lineup. I was saying on Twitter in the week, I feel like I'm lacking an informed striker at the moment across all of my teams. Most of my strikers, like last 15s, last fives, are like yellow or orange, not in those like nice green scores that we like to see. So
No.
I'm struggling a bit, and this weekend didn't have I think Sesko is the only one that's got an okay matchup, but he's not in a hot streak of form at the moment. So Anthony it may or may not come back from these knock on the weekend against Villa, which I think Villa at the moment is not even a particularly good matchup for Man United. While they've got a new manager, they're looking better.
Like Emery.
So I'm not massively confident, and it's annoying because I've got such a big gallery that's worth quite a lot of money, and I'm not feeling like I can compete. But I don't like to trade just because I know I need to. But I think also like Asia and America kind of closing, it knocked a few of my my Cecinias, my Eduardos, my Iwanamis, my Jesus Ferreira. I've lost a few of my big hitters, but that's okay because when Europe winds down, I'll have them, and I'll likely find myself in a much more competitive position. It's just like ebbs and flows, swings and roundabouts, however you want to put it. But I'm quietly confident I should win something this week, hopefully. But yeah, I'm just starting to wonder if I'm a bit light on goalkeepers who start at the moment. Maybe I've sold a couple and not really replaced them. I'm kind of just sat on the ETH, but I probably do need to dip back into that goalkeeper market at some point. Pick up another one or two because I'm putting too many good players into training at the moment, and I'm not
Except
entering
for
certain
forwards, but
divisions. Yeah, I don't have. I should really have entries in most divisions, and I don't have an entry in Challenger Pro, Challenger Rare. I don't have an entry in All Star Pro really. I mean, I do have one, but Etienne Green's in it. Is not going to likely to start. So I maybe need to dip into the goalkeeper market and just pick up a few because I do have good outfield players. I just don't have enough goalkeepers to enter all the divisions at the minute. And it just means
yeah.
I'm putting really good cards into training, which is frustrating to see.
I definitely feel that hole as well. I've got a real lack of a rare forward when Celtic cards aren't fit and firing. Jota been back from injury is a massive a blessing, of course. But I was saying this actually in a stream, but whenever now that Premier League's coming out, I'm probably going to hang fire a bit and just see exactly who's, if in case anyone grabs my attention in that. But I've been so close to trying to action Ismail Assar rare, the forward for Watford, and just hearing you talking about second division as well. I think he's such an undervalued forward on the platform now because there is a lot of there's so many options now. Variety is your best friend now on Sorare. But yeah, so that just kind of popped into my head listening to yourself there talk about, because I'm in a similar situation. I could do it for another rare forward. I like the idea of some of the second division stuff as well, but I'm definitely happy to. I want to watch the developments unravel for the next couple of weeks before, because I think for the Premier League, what I really want to do to maximise on the Prem is play Champion Rare, Pro, Champion, Super Rare again to some extent, and I've still got a contingent of cards to do that with, so I don't think I need to change too much to go and try and win some of the Premier League cards that maybe I want to try and win, not buy,
Yeah,
win. And outside of that, with the World Cup and stuff, I feel like I didn't buy cards for the World Cup anyway. I'm not going to start now, kind of thing. So I'm just kind of making I'm kind of being like Santa. I'm making a list. I'm checking it twice. Some new developments happen. I check it again. I maybe need to change it a bit. And it feels like that's going to be my kind of rinse and repeat pattern for the next kind of month or two.
yeah. I'm hoping some of my forwards just come into form. I don't really want to I know it's just at the minute they're out of form, and then we're going to hit the World Cup, and it's just going to feel like I can't compete anywhere. But I do feel like if I can hit the top rewards on maybe even the D2, if I can get near those, there are some really good forwards in those, and U23 forwards as well. And I think looking at some of my cards, there's a couple of players obviously I have Musiala and Verts, and I wish that those were both forward cards, but they're not.
Yeah,
I've got the midfield versions, but I'd love. I'm semi tempted to swap because they're like rookie mints, if you like. They're their
sure,
first mint, and they're really low. I think I've got Musiala's number 4, and I've got Verts number
nice.
7. So they're
That's
low,
lovely.
low mints. If I can find a collector who maybe will let go of a forward, I'd be quite tempted to do a swap. I don't know.
High
I don't know.
XP as well, I take it.
Yeah. I think Musiala might even be maxed out almost. Let's have a look.
Oof,
Um,
tasty.
he's definitely close. I think Verts. may also be close as well. Let's have a look. Wirtz is he's at 9.5%. My Wirtz.
Nice.
He's the number 21, not number 7. But my Musiala, I think he's. Let's have a look at him. He is 9%, so he's actually a bit less than Wirtz, but he'll get to 10 soon enough. But
Can't wait for Wirtz to come back, man. Mine's is number
yeah,
15, and I'm almost maxed out. I'm one level away.
nearly there. Yeah, I'm excited. There's a few players in that I'm, like Chiesa getting back in off the bench in the week was great to see. Hopefully,
was he? I missed it.
He came in off the bench against PSG, yeah, and he looked his lively usual self. And they're saying that he probably won't start the weekend against Inter, but they expect him to get maybe 20 minutes. So I think they may as well bide their time with him. We've only got a couple games left before the World Cup. Just give him his rest through the World Cup so he'll be completely fresh. Obviously, he'll have some time off. Italy aren't there, are they? So, he wouldn't be going anyway, would he? He's not played a minute until just now. But yeah, hopefully he'll be fit as a fiddle when things open back up after the World Cup. But it was great to see him get back on the pitch. Yeah, he'll be.
I've a midfielder or a forward with Chiesa.
I've got a forward of him, so he's.
Oh, you've got a forward already? Lovely.
Yeah, I've got a forward of Chiesa, so hopefully he's one of them ones that can hit the form. I need to see some form or a decent run. I think a couple of my players have come in. Tukovin came back in at Dynamo. He's scored in the last 2 games. So hopefully he gets a run of games. Jorgen Larsson looks like he's cemented that place at Celta Vigo, doesn't he? So yeah, hopefully he can get among the goals. They've got a decent fixture this weekend, so fingers crossed he gets in amongst it. But yeah, a lot of my other forwards, Yusuf Demir is at Galatasaray now. He's injured again, so I just need Anthony back firing for United again as well. But it's just waiting, isn't it? I need some
goals.
I need goals, yeah. I need reliable goals as well, like not those players who get one every 6 games. I need a decisive every game plus if I can. I need one of them. Fingers crossed.
That'll be our homework. Get some rare forwards in.
That's it. I might do some digging. But yeah, other than that, just excited for the game week ahead and fingers crossed for a bit of end product.
I'm hoping for a good bit, yeah, man. I'm feeling good. Good luck to you, Stishy. I hope we get up there this week. Hopefully Tony has a good week somehow without scoring a goal. That would be nice. If he could somehow manage to work that one out for me.
Goal line clearance.
Yeah, maybe. Sure, why not? Good luck to everyone that's listening to this as well. Don't forget to rate and review it wherever you listen to the podcast. If you've watched this on YouTube. Yeah, good luck everyone this game.